Hello guys and welcome to Fields of Glory Empires. This is a grand strategy game, not just any grand strategy game. It's an age-odd grand strategy game, but on a newer engine than any of their other games I've ever played. It was released the same year as Imperial Rome and takes place roughly in the same time span, starting I believe a couple, maybe like 2 decades later and ending like a century or two after, like 2 centuries later. It is turn-based, it is we go. If you don't know what that means, it means when you hit end turn, everybody's actions go through at the same time. It does have multiplayer, but we're playing this single player today. I am wanting to learn how to play this game. I don't really know how. Every colored in area on the map that you see right now is a playable nation at the start of the game, from, the biggest Seleucid and Antigonid Empire all the way down to this little tiny island barbarian tribe thing. Now, I chose to start this out as Saba because Saba starts out in an interesting situation that will allow me to see all these different parts of the game pretty much all at once. War can happen pretty much immediately, expansion, building up, and I start as a very simple one region nation, where I don't need to worry about managing any large empires or any starting wars or anything. I get to kind of set the tone for my nation at the start of the game at my own pace, and that's why I chose Saba. Now, Saba's pretty interesting because it starts out with this dam, the Marib Dam, that produces a fuck ton of food and culture. Culture is very, very important. We'll talk about that later, as well as legacy, and gives you bonuses to just food production in general, as well as the health of your citizens. Don't really know where health is yet. This is, again, a learning campaign. We're going to be figuring this out as we go. We have access also to this weird temple that, from what I can tell, every turn, every year, it actually changes sides. So it'll be here in culture giving these bonuses now, then it'll go to agriculture the next turn, give different bonuses, and then probably just go back and forth like that every 4 years. It says there's 7 temples, but I don't think that matters. I think it's going to go linearly. That's just a guess, though. We have our King's Palace. This tends to mark like a capital, I think. It's a national wonder. It unlocks palace guards. Wait, what? Can I make palace guards? I don't think I can. No, I can't. Not part of the national recruitment pool. Maybe we're the wrong culture. We probably are. But that building would otherwise unlock that. But it gives loyalty. Yeah, this is a national capital, region's national capital. We have a cult site we started with, which is interesting. A conversion rate bonus. This is random. The buildings you start out with are quite random. Ooh, oh, this is interesting. So a cult site, this was randomly placed here, also gives us culture and conversion rate as well. We started out with a slave market, and these 2 buildings should pair pretty well together, because what this means is that it can gather and sell slaves. So when we fight battles, we will be able to get slaves from it, and it'll generate national decisions about selling and buying slaves, which is good if we need manpower. But with the amount of food we're getting from the dam, theoretically we might not need that. We also start out with a quarry, which is nice. Produces infrastructure. Infrastructure is needed for building stuff, as well as a stables, which unlocks cavalry, especially if you have horses. However, it's actually really interesting. What exactly does that unlock? Yeah, that unlocks cavalry. We have access to cavalry. That's different than cameliers, which is something that we actually start with. Right here, we start with 3 cameliers, which are kind of the same thing as cavalry, except cavaliers have a ranged attack and can take part in skirmishing. They're just not as good at dealing damage with flanking, so they are more of a backup skirmisher type of unit, but they can also fight on the flanks, and they do this alongside skirmishers and other cheap units. Well, that's interesting, because cavalry are pretty useful. All of our units have bonuses like desertmen, because we are from an arid terrain, so all the units recruited here anyway have these bonuses. The units you can recruit are different in every location and every kind of culture that you play as. So right down here, we'll be able to recruit different things than right here. And these are currently unclaimed. Now, part of what is interesting, I think, here with Saba and why I wanted to play it is, let me show you the movement overlay here. Okay, well, this is interesting. I'm confused. So this area is desert. every other time when I was booting this game up trying to understand the base mechanics, this area was all scorched desert, not desert, which had a pretty profound effect, because what it meant was that we couldn't go there from what I could tell. But this time it's all desert and not scorched desert, which is weird. That would mean we could actually go there. That's a little confusing. I'm not quite sure why it's different now. And then there's these right here. So apparently these will get like discovered over time and unlocked. These ones where you see these little movement things right there. But none of that should concern us given where we are. Maybe like stuff over here, but maybe there's some RNG even to just what's available at the start. There's a lot of RNG I've noticed when you start this game up. Your starting buildings will be different. Your starting units, everything will be different. It's very interesting. So we need to get building. So we already have more than enough food thanks to the dam. Therefore, we don't really need to focus food. I could put everybody on infrastructure. Now, we wouldn't make a whole lot of money because the slave market isn't making that much money. It is giving us decadence, which is bad. This game is pretty unique in that it stops you from doing what you would do in Imperial Rome, pretty much. In Imperial Rome, you would just expand and expand and expand and expand, and that's what the game wants you to do. There's some mechanics to make it difficult, but not a lot. Decadence is kind of like that. Decadence gets in your way of becoming an advanced civilization. It tears you down some tiers, and that can be bad. And we'll talk about that as we get to it. But things that add decadence are bad. You get decadence by owning more territory and owning certain buildings, like a slave market. Well, I wouldn't mind this right now. We do need a lot of population. Those slaves are usually not very happy. Their unrest, I think it adds to the revolt risk, I guess, which is also determined by your loyalty. There's also like martial law and stuff. I'm a little unfamiliar with what that is. Even these stats at the start are kind of RNG. Like average military experience, sometimes you won't have this. You'll have like low or high. Our leader is a 20-year-old, Tafaris. That's good. He's nice and young, and he's good military bonus. 20% reduction on experience needed for level up and military expertise bonus. That's nice. Generals should be winners of most conflicts if not outnumbered too heavily. We're also a monarchy, which gives a bonus of 10 XP whenever a unit is created, which is good. I think if you have low military experience, it kind of counters that, like it lowers it. Commerce bonus because we are traders. However, we are going to start with some war, let me tell you right now. That is kind of my plan right now. We are going to immediately go into diplomacy. And two things. Number one is Ethiopia. We are going to offer to Ethiopia a cooperation treaty. 26% chance to go through. I think they take 2 turns to respond to this instead of 1. Based on my experience with the game so far, I don't know why. I'll go ahead and propose that. For normal offers, like an alliance, then it's usually pretty instant. But we want that because they like us. I don't know why they like us, but they do. I'm really not sure why, but we might as well befriend them. There's no land route here like Imperator. You would have to sail. However, sailing is pretty simple in this game from what I can tell. These guys don't like us. We like to see small states strive to be great reminders of our own distant past. Yes, well, this small state's going to kick your ass, so I'm going to declare war on them. So next turn is when we will be at war with them, meaning I can't attack them just yet. I could go ahead and start claiming things around me instead of doing this. However, it's interesting, right? So we got a pretty nice start here. Well, we don't have any walls. We don't have any defenses. They do. They have a palisade, but that's actually, I think, good because this means, you know, if you fight for the location, it'll defend with 6 units. On our capital, we'll defend with 7. There's currently 8 on top of it with a combat power of 32. We have 10 with a combat power of 43. If there were no walls, the defenders would join any army on top. Since there are walls, then we can fight these battles separately, is kind of my hope. And so that's what we're going for here. Oh, this place also has a slave market. Do you need multiple slave markets? I don't know. You don't really get to choose what you build. You have some choices to pick from at the beginning, and then that's literally it. I could build a palisade right now, for example. However, the only threat is Quantaban, really. Now, according to the game's flavor, Arabia, these barbaric tribes of Arabia are supposed to be our big threat. However, I will take out Quantaban and then we'll go worry about Arabia and other things. And then of course we'll have to deal with the Diadochi those guys eventually. Hopefully they'll just fall apart into decadency. I know they have special mechanics in this game, kind of like Imperator, but longer lived. I'm going to go for Public Works. That's what I'm going to go for, because it adds for no slot usage. So we have currently 6 of 8 building slots used. It will consume none of those, but it will generate 5 infrastructure constantly, which is good because it'll add to how much we can build. Costs 80 infrastructure to make it. That'll take us 3 turns to make if we have everybody on this specifically. Slaves can only really work on these first 2, making food or infrastructure. Our dam makes so much food, I feel like we don't need to assign anybody. Plus, the dam can break, killing a population. And so, well, the way to counter that is to actually have as much infrastructure production as possible. And I don't know if that's positive infrastructure construction, because this also consumes like 10 and all the buildings consume some as well. These starting buildings are interesting. If I could, I would have changed the stables out maybe, but it's whatever. We're also going to recruit new units to help our battle. Now, there's a lot of resources. There's money, manpower, and metal to worry about when it comes to making units. So regular infantry costs, you know, quite a bit more than anything else we can make. So still a little bit money in the long run. The plus is over time. The just static number is like a flat upfront cost. They cost the most manpower and the most money of anything I can make right now. Cavalry do cost some metal, but only upfront. And this is kind of the big thing right here, is the cost in equipment. Right now, we're making 30 equipment at this location. And so the way all of these resources work, like equipment and infrastructure, is they pile up. You consume them from the stockpile and they get consumed as they're produced. You cannot technically go into the negative unless you're simply not making enough. Well, that's for infrastructure and like food, not exactly for equipment, because equipment only gets consumed by producing things. So I just want things that can be pumped out really quickly. And so right now, what we have here is 1 heavy infantry that we were lucky to start with. Here we have this general's not too great. I mean, he's no defense rating, no offense, but he's a wilderness expert. That's not really going to help us in a hill, unless rough counts as hill. Hill counts as rough. I'm not really sure. Rough, mountainous, and forested. I don't know if those colors are, you know, those colors might be. This might count as rough terrain, in which case that would actually be good, because it would lower supply usage and add movement bonus, I guess. Sure. This guy over here, this 24-year-old, has a much better rating, but for whatever reason that I don't really understand yet, we have bonuses to our combat power when this guy's in charge. Leader rating gives extra combat dice to unit under command. I don't really understand that. I mean, I think I understand that. Like, I just don't understand why this guy has so many bonuses for everybody, but then like nobody else does. How is this guy so special? Stat-wise, he should be terrible. He's only 19. Like, our leader is 20, so he should at least last a while. And he gives us some pretty good combat power. We have 3 frontline warriors. I actually can't make more of these. If we pretend for a second that our Cameliers are not frontline infantry, which they're kind of not, you know, they're not as good at cavalry. In melee, they're just more versatile and kind of unique to the desert. They are pretty useful. Maybe more as like, I don't even know, because they're not as good at skirmishing as skirmishers are. And they cost metal, which is rarer. But the range attack, well, actually their range attack is technically better. The defense is the same. They do also technically have more hits. Their melee fighting, their defense is better. Their combat powers, maybe they are just better. They do cost twice the amount of money plus some metal. So it could be that these are just better than skirmishers. It could be. They do not have any siege resist, so using them as a defender wouldn't really be too great. They also can't besiege like something like warriors can. Heavy infantry cannot besiege either. And I don't see anything here about siege resist. Maybe like range unit siege resist because they're like throwing stuff at the enemies. I'm not sure. Yeah, because warriors don't have siege resist. Interesting. Well, skirmishers are the cheapest still. And they're kind of supposed to be just this really cheap unit you use on the front or in the rear, wherever you need them. I'm going to recruit 2 skirmishers. We can always repurpose them to something else later. Hell, I can recruit 3 of them right now. Where are we getting this extra infrastructure? Oh, from stables. So I can recruit 3 skirmishers right now if I want to. Or potentially, I'm curious, because this is, well, 25, 20. I could recruit a regular infantry and a skirmisher all in one turn. That's not bad. That would add to our siege value. Again, the regular infantry is not as good as these warriors, I believe, but they're not quite the same unit. But getting one of each would be nice, like front line, rear line, excluding the Cameliers, plus his heavy infantry. Just, I think that would be a good thing to produce right now to get ready to add more combat power to what we can bring to bear on our enemies next turn. And I'm not really sure, is this the combat power or is 2? Yeah, they both say they have the same combat power, but some extra besieging capability would be pretty great. Now, at some point, potentially having camels, which we can't actually make right now, kind of replace skirmishers for offensive things could be pretty useful. Because, again, it seems skirmishers don't really contribute to sieges at all. They are a support unit. This is not a support unit. Oh, right, that's a difference, though, is skirmishers will do support stuff better. I'm not sure if there's really a place for Cameliers in my military in the long run, then. It's going to be interesting to learn this stuff as we go on. Hopefully I don't fuck up too much. But this is our army. We are now recruiting these units. It will consume upfront money. It will consume upfront manpower, quite a bit of it, too. Plus some metal for the regular infantry. 5 metal costs up front. Luckily, we're making 10. Actually, I think it's already taken it from my stockpile. Yeah, it has. We also have a decision to make this turn. These things can come and go. They expire after a certain amount of turns. You don't have to do them, but you can. So, citizenship, status, and state reform. Citizenship was often hereditary, and only a few laws or decrees would allow one to become a citizen, even if at the time some nations like Rome had to give citizenships to thousands of men and women to stop dire troubles or major unrest. Free and wealthy foreigners were often more than welcome and respected, even if not citizens. So there's 4 options here, and I believe I can only pick one. I can grant citizenship to foreigners, minor or major. The minor ones limits it just to wealthier foreigners, and this gives me a 10% chance per government and commerce building tier in each region to convert a non-main ethnicity citizen to my ethnicity, which is desertic. Major would make it so many foreigners can convert. We'd lose loyalty and manpower, but we'd have a 25% chance at that conversion instead of 10%. And then we can go like reform citizens' rights, which is a chance to lose a progress token. I don't really know why you do this. It's supposed to give you stability. Probably if you had like a bad progress token, which I'll talk about in a bit. Oh, I see. It reduces government age, which reduces decadence. I see. Government age is reduced by 1/3, reduces decadence. Interesting. And then reform state and government, which is like massive and can put buffs and debuffs all over your nation. Now, I don't need to do this right now. I can do this in a year. And I think I should do it in a year because I don't think we actually have any. No, we do have a Nubian. We might want to wait till we have a couple more things to actually do that, though. So we'll leave that be for right now. So this is my government age. I don't really know what that means. Like how many years your government has been in power, I suppose. And that can contribute to decadence, status, age, penalty. Because there's civilization levels, and like, you want to get those up. Your ratio here is determined by your culture, historically and presently. As I said, taking things over can give negative, decadence in general, which is bad, and you don't want it. Legacy, this is kind of how you win. This is your score. Whoever's the most legacy at the end wins. And there's a lot of ways to get this, holding objectives, having wonders and things like that. Right now, we only have 1 from our dam. I think one of the towers might eventually give some of that as well. Decadence reduction, that seems kind of nice. So, the age is interesting. I guess at some point you need to do stuff like this. Reform citizens. Yeah, right. So losing the progress token is like a debuff. And then the government age, reducing it by 1/3. It's like, oh, well, if it's 100 years, 99 years old, let's say, you could get it down to 66 years. I don't really know how that works. So I don't fully understand, but I've looked it up a little bit. And so this is how you can like progress in civilization. So if you're old, decadent, or glorious, then you have this age thing that gets factored into account. If you're stable, then there's no age decadence penalty. So my age doesn't hurt me with decadence at all. until I become glorious or old or just flat out decadent, for example, where there's all these different modifiers. And apparently, other than that event, the main way to lower it is to take a objective region. And so that's something I guess I could show you as well. We can have objectives, and they're kind of set by our leaders. Owning them also gives us legacy points. Right now, our only objective is Saba. Based on my limited testing, I believe they'll set this as an objective next, and then maybe like one of these other ones. Now, since we're going to declare war and take some time to actually go through with the besieging, this should be an objective by the time we take it. And that will help our legacy and also apparently remove 20% of government age for everyone that we take. Regardless, while we're stable, it doesn't really matter. But if we do end up becoming a glorious nation, which would have more, like all these buffs right here, legacy gain increase, you need legacy to win. Leader force pool bonus, I think that's how many generals you can have. Yeah, and then loyalty, XP, and conversion, like these are all very useful. It's just the problem is decadence becomes a problem, which can then peel you back. So if we do work our way up to that, we want to keep that in mind. However, I've set up all my buildings, I've set up my diplomacy, and we can't really go attack them just yet, but I want to be prepared to attack them, so we don't want to weaken ourselves going into one of these uncivilized locations and fighting their population. We don't want to do that. Now, all of this area is apparently enterable, which is different. I've never seen this before. Usually it's like scorched desert and we can't enter, so I guess the map has some variability to it. But we're gonna, I guess, be at a big competition with Arabia and these guys, so we want to get rid of them as soon as possible. But then you have 3 Diadochi up here, which are going to cause problems as well, and, you know, we'll just have to take it little bit by little bit. Now, do I want everybody, every single person on infrastructure? Like I said, the slaves can only do like the first 2 categories. We could maybe put some more into culture. We're getting 35 for some reason. I think it's because of this cult site. Well, that's good, because this can add up to 1,000 in a region, and then having cultured regions helps you earn more legacy as well. And so that is going to be useful if we can keep it high. Money is probably the thing I'm most concerned about. We didn't start with a whole lot of money generating things, so maybe leaving a citizen or so here, because I know the units I'm going to make are going to increase my upkeep by quite a bit. So let's move 2 of my citizens over to money to boost that up for right now. And then just leave everybody else on infrastructure right now, because we needed as much infrastructure as possible with what we're doing. And, you know, having the dam. We don't really need to add to food. When food does hit max, by the way, when it actually adds up fully, it turns into a new pop, and then you could just keep going from there, a new citizen. But from this war, we should also be able to take some slaves, which can add to unrest, but, you know, we'll see how all of it goes. So let's go ahead and end our turn. So all the AI turns will now be processed. Compared to old age-odd games, this goes pretty fast, honestly. Old age-odd games took quite a while to process this stuff, and it was usually really buggy when they did it. So thanks to our culture decadence ranking, we've gone up 37 positions to number 14, and we got a progress token. That's awesome. We start real simple. I guess Carthage probably already started with some. We are a monarchy, by the way. There's also republics. All the different governments come with different bonuses and debuffs and whatnot. We are number 6 for legacy points, kind of tied with Carthage right now. Here's all these other ones. It's interesting, they kind of color them based on in the character selection, I think. Maybe? I don't know what these colors are really for. But yeah, we want to be number 1 here to win. And then we want to keep this as high as possible just to be stable and well, I suppose. Let's see, unit quality, experience, effectiveness, terrain, labor proficiency, and supporting units, skirmishers. Yeah, you want good supporting units. Fighting has erupted between Saba and Quantaban. Nice, so we are at war. We are at war with them. That hurt our relations by only 2. It's funny. Negative 25. So these guys hate us. Sometimes size is of importance. We'd be willing to teach you how to administer more lands for a fee, that is. No, you wouldn't. That's not a thing. That's not a thing at all. These guys are going to be problematic. I believe they're a tribe. No, they're a monarchy. The description of this game said they're a tribe. Let's see. Under the wise rule of our leader, Saba civilization is progressing. Progress tier reached. I can view that now. So progress tier reached? I don't really know what that means. Our age did go up 1, but again, we're not penalized for it. It's not really a problem. This area down here was marked as an objective like I expected. And let's see, we're progressing. Top tier tokens 1, 40% chance to receive a progress token. Okay, that's nice. Army strength is growing. We're in 1 war. Doesn't really tell us anything about our enemies yet. Legacy falling behind. Yeah, compared to the big boys, right? We're not supposed to be able to compete with them. We're very tiny. Yeah, that Great Temple changed to agriculture now, and it's also giving us some legacy points, which is going to be nice for a turn. We can now have like another objective region. Those go away over time, so the sooner you own them, the better for that purpose. We have a current loyalty of loyalty. What do you mean loyalty? I think that's just culture. Of like current is something like 30, so that's weighing down to a current 15 because it gets divided. Where is it? For HCV or historical culture value. Next turn, that value will go into historical, and then our value this or next turn will go into the current, and then it'll just kind of add up like that, divided by our decadence gives us a ratio, and that ratio determines how well we progress towards the next one of these, I guess, or how badly, I guess, we age, you know, so we'd either go towards an old monarchy or to a glorious monarchy. And from glorious, we can progress to an empire from a monarchy. This is the next progression. And then we could be young instead of stable. Or if we go down past old and decadent monarchy, we could then actually revert back to stable. All right, so I've received a token. Cool. And a new objective. Yes, this will stay there. I think the AI should mark this pretty easily, pretty well. They actually have a new unit they've been recruiting. They recruited 1 new unit. What do they have? A bunch of skirmishers, 2 warriors, and 2 cavaliers. That's not a lot. But they recruited 1 new unit. They still have just those 6 defending units that are probably going to be in the walls, I imagine. They might not be in the walls, honestly. I don't really know. And a new general has become available. However, I doubt that that new general is really going to be very useful. Yeah, no. We just want Runma. Runma is the good shit. All of our new units have arrived in our stack, so we're going to move on the attack. We're still building the public works. Not much I could change there. Our infrastructure is a little different now that the temple changed. That kind of changed the values of what we have. We are barely positive on money now as a result of what we did. It's still 1 more turn before we get another pop. I don't really know how you recruit warriors, but I see that they just cost less money but more manpower than regular infantry do. Otherwise, their stats seem to be pretty much exactly the same in every single way. It says warriors are the predecessor to medium infantry, but they're slightly faster, and it's the cost differently. Warriors demand more men, less money. Related medium infantry, regular infantry are medium infantry. I don't know if that's anything we could ever recruit more of. I don't see the ability to recruit more warriors, so these guys are one-offs. We're not getting more, but they are equivalent, I guess, then. They're equivalent to regular infantry. They just cost less money and more manpower, and I guess they move faster, which is weird. Doesn't that just make them better? Yeah, they do move faster. That's weird. Maybe manpower is harder in the long run. It might be. Now, this turn, for whatever reason, we get less equipment produced. Maybe the temple was responsible for some of it. We only make 25 now. That is enough for another regular infantry, which could be useful. And the extra 5 equipment can carry over into the next turn, or I could try putting it to use on a skirmisher. I think I just recruit the extra heavy thing. These cavaliers are not only just like flanking cavalry, they also kind of work as skirmishers as well. I was looking at the stats, and I think the cavaliers really do look better than the horses, at least the ones I have available to me. So I might just get rid of this at some point. It is costing me a whole 12 money right now because I'm missing horses, and so I guess they're being like imported or whatever. I think there's some randomization to the resources as well. I don't see horses anywhere near here. And unless we, well, look at that, there's horses over there. We might even be importing them from there, theoretically. I know you can import. I don't know. Yeah, we're just missing right now. And so it costs an expense. It doesn't say it's imported. I think we'll be able to import them from over here once we get to the sea and get access to like the ocean or whatever. I'm not sure. So I don't fully know if there's any purpose to having this stable yet. We might just be wasting money, but it is producing equipment and infrastructure, which is nice at the very least. I don't know, we'll have to see over time. However, that is a nice full episode, so I'll end this one here, and on the second one, we'll pick up with our first ever battles. For now, thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.